wait over half an hour at certain points. This was in part due to the fact that FastPass Plus was basically guaranteeing that an attraction would be operating 60 days in advance. As previously explained, Paper FastPass had a built-in response to downtimes, or at the very least a ride operator could throw a bunch of FastPasses in the trash to give operations some wiggle room. This was much more difficult with FastPass Plus. When an attraction went down, it might have already had an entire day's worth of FastPasses distributed. If the downtime was significant, anyone with FastPasses during the downtime were given an any-use FastPass with which they could use on any ride they chose, which backed up FastPass lines at other attractions throughout the park. If the ride was delayed but did not completely shut down, this caused a backup in the FastPass line for that ride. When there was a backup, FastPass to standby ratio had to be altered to get the FastPass line under control. This was the same compensation plan as Paper FastPass, but the new system seemed to be dispersing any use FastPasses much more frequently, leading to Disney eventually putting limits on these passes. Con number 3, the FastPass to standby ratio. We have yet to discuss the FastPass to standby ratio in detail. It is no secret that of the two lines, the FastPass line is given priority over the standby line.
Yeah, I'm
in
fine.
fact, that's the whole point. The question is, how much was FastPass favored over standby?
So, are you gonna...
What
are you doing?
Cousin Billy bought an old motorboat, but that fool drowned the engine, taking her out.
So,
What are you doing wandering around in the middle of the working day?
I'm off today. Sam, could we talk now? It's a little important.
Ain't that what we're doing? Can't bring the chain or the valve covers back on. So, did you need something?
Was 80-20, or in other words, for every 4 FastPass guests, 1
I
standby
was
guest
hoping
was
to,
left. This is consistent with cast
I
member
actually
and
wanted
guest
to
recollections of
check out your
the
boat,
time.
is all.
4-to-1 ratio remained standard after the transition to FastPass Plus, but with
All right,
backups occurring much more frequently,
here she is.
cast members at merge points had to modify the FastPass to standby disparity more often. There were
I was
3
over
phases
at the
cast members
station,
had to go
and
through. Phase
I
1
was
standard
thinking
operating
about
procedure
something.
with a 4-to-1 ratio. If there was a backup in the FastPass line, cast members would go to Phase 2, which was a 20-to-1 ratio. And if the backup was significant enough, Phase 3 would be initiated, which was for every 1 standby guest, 100 FastPass guests were let through. Once the FastPass line was under control, cast members would return to Phase 1. But the disparity of Phase 2 and 3 was infuriating to guests waiting in the standby queue, which during these phases would almost completely stop. There was also a psychological
You've known
gamble
us
with
for a
FastPass.
while.
Disney was
Your
banking
whole
on the
lives.
idea that guests would
You
not remember
puked
the
all
3 or
over
4
my
times
slick
they
denim
cut
button.
line. They would just remember the one time they got to cut the line. This gamble seemed to pay off, but they were also working against another issue with the psychology of queuing. Now that FastPass was slowing down the standby line, the pace at which guests moved
That's
through the queue
a nice memory.
in most cases, people prefer to spend
Where's
20
your
minutes
brother?
walking at a steady pace rather than spend 20 minutes standing still.
Okay.
The latter was now happening frequently on FastPass
Had a
attractions.
fight.
In the pre-FastPass days,
Bit of sibling rivalry. You should have seen me and my little brother have at it.
Back then,
Right up.
lines were moving 3, 4, or
Right up
5
to the
times
end.
as fast. With FastPass, guests found that the amount of
So,
people waiting in the standby line
I was over
less
at the
than
station,
full, despite
and
the wait time
I
being
was
the same
thinking
or
about
more.
some things.
Con number 4,
Yeah?
FastPass
You've known us
availability.
for a
After
while.
guests became accustomed
Your whole
to the
lives.
FastPass Plus system,
You
it did not take
puked all
long
over
for them
my
to figure
slick
out the
denim
best ways to
button-up.
use it. In
That's
turn,
a
FastPass
nice
availability
memory.
was running out extremely fast for
Are you
popular
gonna be
rides.
long?
Practically
I was
every
hoping
day
we
of the
could
year,
talk.
Popular
My
attractions
ears
would run out of
defensive.
FastPass availability
What's up?
completely before the day of operation. This was the case
Never
for
mind.
5 attractions at the
See,
Magic Kingdom, 3 at
how's the house
Epcot,
coming?
3 at Hollywood Studios, 2 at Animal Kingdom, and 4 meet and greets throughout the resort. This meant that nearly 17 experiences were out of FastPasses before guests even arrived to the park. This prompted Disney to hold back a small amount of FastPasses until the day of, where they would then drop these held back passes at different points throughout the day. This also gave them the option to not drop these additional
I was over
passes
at the
all if
station,
the attraction was
and I
experiencing
was
downtime.
thinking
Still,
about some
unless a
things.
guest got lucky
Yeah?
and snagged a
You've
FastPass
known us
during
for
one of
a
these
while.
random drops,
Your
or
whole
after another
lives.
guest modified
You
or canceled
puked
theirs,
all over my
if they
slick
wanted a
denim
FastPass
button-up.
for a popular ride,
That's
they had
a
to
nice
plan in
memory.
advance. Which leads me to pro number 4 and
Goddamn
con number 5, planning.
Loaded.
Many people
Rusty
love
ass
planning their
junker.
Disney trips and do a lot of research and
Having some
groundwork
trouble?
beforehand.
Can't get
My
these
Magic
nuts
Plus
loose 'cause
and
my idiot
FastPass
cousin
Plus
let 'em
significantly
rust.
increase the amount
Got a
of
can
data
of Rusty
necessary
Ridge
to
somewhere.
have a consistently good
Come across
experience
it, pass it over, yeah?
FastPass
Oh,
Plus was supposed
sure.
to give guests the option to plan their trip in advance, but in
Still
practice,
can't get 'em
the
off?
system force guests to
Nope.
plan their trip.
It's driving me up the
Not
goddamn
to
wall.
experience the most popular attractions
If I
without
could
an
only
extreme
find that
standby wait
goddamn
time.
rust
Hotel
spray.
guests could book an entire trip's worth of fast passes 60 days out from their check-in date. This allowed some guests to book as many as 70 days in advance, resulting in certain attractions like Slinky Dog Dash at Hollywood
Still can't
Studios
get 'em off?
and Flight of Passage at Animal
Nope.
Kingdom running out
It's
of
driving me
fast
up the
passes
goddamn
before the
wall.
60-day mark.
If I could only find that goddamn rust spray.
And everyone had tips and tricks to snag those passes.
Richard, we'll start with track meeting to do 4 p.m. So you get 3 fast pass bus reservations per day.
So once you hit the 60-day mark from your first night at your hotel, you can actually go on and book fast passes for the whole length of your stay.
Start with the last day of your vacation first. So the further out you can make it, the more likely you're able to get it. Also, if you take a longer trip, you're more likely to get it too. So if you need an excuse to take a longer trip, there you have it. So on my 61st day, I log on to my Disney Experience and I can start making festival selections at 7 a.m.
Hey, Allie,
Eastern Standard Time.
could you check if I have
Or
rust
6
spray
a.m.
somewhere in this mess?
Which is where I sleep. Because you want to make sure that you are logged in about 5 minutes before your fast pass window starts.
If at all possible, book them early in the day. That way you can get more fast passes for different parks later in the day.
You save that first hour of the day to ride some of the smaller rides, but then you try to set up your 3 fast passes as soon as possible after that hour, as close as possible together.
I have filled in a vague idea of what I want to do. I make a fast pass plus list, all of the days, times, and rides.
Rust removers in some sort of spray bottle. Should say sticky mechanisms on it.
Please do not be thinking about this like a super guarantee.
So I guarantee you, by the time your 30-day window comes up for off-property guests,
Flight of passage.
Flight of Passage, Slinky Dog, Seven Dwarfs,
Keep checking the app.
I'm so...
Keep refreshing. Last minute fast passes pop up all the time.
You'll be able to click hour by hour. And if you just keep clicking hour by hour, it will...
When was the last time you cracked a window?
Pizza.
What's all this?
Here, I kept a
and
few
there are
things.
also tickets that are available, like after 5 p.m. tickets. Okay?
Swords and schemes.
I took her to see that for her birthday. She hated every second of it. Whole drive back, she talked about how it butchered the books.
And then what you do is reuse it the next day because you never enter the park.
That's it. We did it.
We did it.
Look at these ones.
What's all this?
Here,
And the extra planning of activity, adding even more anticipation of their upcoming trip, will also guarantee certain experiences during the system, but did so progressively, just like you planning multiple days of flexibility.
Who was
Guests
this?
did not know the
Why are you wearing a square hat?
and thus missed out on the most valuable
Laura took this.
I've
been working on that barn for months. That roof
That
is a son of a bitch to sheath. Rain just kept on leaking into the loft.
Wait, the barn has a loft?
Oh, yeah. You didn't know?
Oh, she didn't tell us.
Pirates of the Caribbean, 2 attractions that did not previously offer paper fast pass, reported consistently higher wait times. On the other end of the spectrum,
Look
Space
at yourself.
Mountain and Expedition Everest saw their standby waits decrease slightly. As the system was fully implemented, standby waits appeared to be longer. And for years, fans have argued back and forth whether or not FastPass increases or decreases standby waits, increases or decreases overall waits, or increases or decreases the amount of attractions a guest can experience in a day. Unfortunately, it is nearly
if you want to be
impossible
alone, I'll
answer
go.
these questions. Statistics
But
like
if
these
there's
have now
anything
been
you need to get
reported
off
by
your
Disney,
chest,
and wait times
I
before
won't
FastPass
snitch.
were not consistently reported.
You saw
And even if
Allison?
they were, it would be unfair
Who is
for
she?
numerous reasons to
Yeah,
compare these
I
numbers.
went by her place
Even
this
doing the
morning.
math ourselves would be
She was saying some
impossible.
really crazy shit,
Calculations
like
necessary to
she was
determine
having
what a performance
hallucinations.
system such as
Look,
FastPass
I don't
does
want to drag you into
perform
this.
is much too
Well,
complicated for
I'm already in it,
spreadsheets. In
and
order
you
to
look like
answer these
hell,
questions,
so...
we would actually need to create
Yeah,
a computer
well,
simulation,
got
like
her to
one
think
of the
for
ones
that.
Bruce Lavelle created during his time at the company.
You know what I
Even
think you
then,
need right
this
now?
is no small task.
A fishing pole.
Someone would need to pay an
As a wise man
industrial
once
engineer
said,
to create a complex
fishing is the
computer
cure to the wounds of the heart.
simulation populated with agents, all with unique preferences, riding attractions of varying capacities and run times in order to compare and
I don't know if I'm in
wait
the-
times, number
No
of rides
way.
ridden, and other
After all that
factors,
talk,
with
you're not
and
backing
without
down
a
on me,
review
are you?
system, just to get to the bottom
I don't
of this
know.
ridiculously niche
Come on,
curiosity.
we're burning daylight. Let's go.
Hey everybody, I made a theme park in the computer.
Got everything you need, by the way?
Where all
Yeah,
the guests
I'm
are
good.
dots and all the rides are shapes. Here's
Man.
how it works. I decide
I'm
how
so
many
gonna
people
miss
are
this.
going to visit the park
Miss
each
what?
day. They then
Just
arrive
hanging
based
out
on an arrival
and
schedule that is
fishing
similar
and-
to that of a real
You know, I'm not gonna have a lot of time after we move to Juneau with school and the JC and everything.
and few guests
Right.
arriving in the last few hours of the day. From there, each guest independently makes decisions.
So did any of the
on what
people
they're
you came
going
up
to
with
do
at
to
Fireweed
ensure
land in
variability.
Juneau?
There are 7 different archetypes of guests. Ride
I'm not
enthusiast,
sure.
ride
Once they
fan,
left, I never really
average
kept in
tourist,
touch.
activity
Really?
fan, annual pass holder, entitled annual pass holder, and vlogger.
Some of
Each
them were
these
straight up
archetypes
awesome,
determines
but
3
we just
factors.
weren't that
The
close,
first
you know?
is stay time
None of them really
preference.
got, like,
This dictates
family?
how long the guest wants to
I
stay in the
mean,
park.
I guess I
For
got pretty
instance, the
tight
ride
with my
enthusiast
counselor,
archetype
Aaron,
wants to stay at the
but
park for 9 hours,
I already
while the
had a
average
family.
tourist archetype
Well,
only wants to stay
there's a
around
reason
7
we think of
hours.
families
The
as
second
trees.
factor is bulk
They keep
point.
on sprouting
The ride
new
enthusiast
branches.
has a bulky point
Oh,
of 4 hours,
hey,
meaning that
I
they
think I've got a
refuse to
bike.
ride a ride that has over a 4-hour wait.
You got this.
On the other
Reel 'em
hand,
in.
the average tourist refuses to wait more than 2 hours for a ride. The annual pass holder won't wait more than 30 minutes, and the vlogger won't wait more than 15. The third factor is attraction preference. This determines whether a guest wants to ride an attraction or do an activity such as eat at a restaurant or go gift shopping. Obviously, the ride enthusiast much prefers attractions, but the average tourist is more open to doing activities. After a guest enters the park, they will begin flipping coins
Come on,
and rolling
pull up on the
dice,
rod.
weighted based on their own preferences. For instance, this guest's name is Bernadotte. Bernadotte is the average tourist. They are open to both attractions and activities. They will only wait around 2 hours for a ride, and they will stay for 7 hours. Once in the park, Bernadotte decides whether they want to do an attraction or an activity based on a weighted coin flip. Let's say they choose to do an attraction. They then decide which attraction to do. Bernadotte's decision is now based on a weighted die roll. Each attraction in the park has a different popularity ranking, and the more popular the attraction, the more likely
Careful.
it is that Bernadotte
The line's gonna
will
snap.
ride it. Let's say Bernadotte decides to ride Shapeland's most popular attraction, the Shrine. Since Shapeland is currently operating off the original Fast Pass system, Bernadotte first looks at the posted standby wait time. If the wait time is under 30 minutes, they join the standby line. If it is over 30 minutes, Bernadotte will check if the attraction has Fast Pass. If it doesn't, whether it be because the attraction doesn't offer it or because there are no more available for the day,
Now give it a nice
Bernadotte
pull.
will make sure that the current standby wait is less than their bulking point. If it is, they will join the standby line. If it
Reel 'em
isn't,
in.
they will go back to the hub and decide to do a different attraction. In the case
Come on,
that the attraction
pull up on the
does
rod.
offer Fast Pass and still has some available, Bernadotte will grab one and be assigned a return time. The equation that determines Bernadotte's return time is the same one used at the original Fast Pass kiosks. With their spot in the visual queue secured, Bernadotte can now go back to the hub and repeat their logic over again, deciding whether to do an attraction or an activity.
Pace
deciding which
yourself.
attraction or
It's a
activity to
marathon,
do.
not a
But this
sprint.
time, Bernadotte ensures that they
Thanks,
still have
Sensei.
time to make it back
Oh,
to
hey,
the
did you
Fast
want to make
Pass.
solid plans to hit the
Bernadotte's
buzzard
daytime
hole?
preference is
The
7
river
hours.
might ice
So after
over
they have
soon,
been
so
in the
we
park for
shouldn't
7
wait too
hours,
long.
They will choose to leave, and their day at Shapeland will be finished. This same logical and preference-based progression is repeated for every single guest in the park over the course of the operating day. At the end of each run, the simulation gives me a plethora of data to comb through. Almost everything in my simulation is dynamic. I can change the number of attractions, attraction capacity, runtime, popularity, and whether each individual attraction has Fast Pass or not. I can change the behavior archetypes, the park's arrival schedule, and even how many guests are able to utilize the Fast Pass system. The simulation is by no means perfect, and there are many factors that it does not take into account, such as these. I ran the simulation 3 times, one with no Fast Pass, one with the original paper Fast Pass, and one with the system that simulates Fast Pass Plus to the best of the simulation's ability. More info on that here. So after obtaining and organizing the results, some fascinating patterns emerged. First, let's discuss what results we will be looking at. Whenever
not now.
discussing the pros and
With the
cons
way
of
things
Fast Pass,
are,
3
I'd rather
factors
not make any
always seem to
promises.
emerge.
No
Standby
problem.
wait times,
I can be flexible, so
and average
let me know if
number
that's
of
right.
attractions. Thanks to Shapeland, we finally have answers as to how virtual
Đi muốn
systems
tay xào à, cái sự tay
with all of their
muốn
factors.
tay xào đâu
Kỹ sư
hả?
con bé này.
Examine standby
Kỹ sư bé này.
These are the average standby
Đúng rồi,
waits
đúng
for
rồi.
Shapeland's 10 attractions throughout a
Yêu
12-hour
dập cái
ride.
nuôi hành hòn đủ à.
And there is no Fast Pass implemented throughout the park. As you can see, we still get huge waits. The
Hey,
triangle has a
so
weight of
the
over
other day
40
you were
pounds.
talking about your chosen family. How did you find them?
Well, high school can be kind of rough when you gotta hide who you are every second of the day. I got to a pretty dark place.
I can relate to that.
One morning, my uncle woke me up and told me to get into his car. I figured we're going fishing or something, but then we ended up outside the Juno Coalition for Equality.
Your uncle brought you to the JCE.
Yeah. He didn't know how to help, so found someone who did.
That sounds amazing.
You know, even if you don't move to Juno, my offer still stands. The JCE holds a monthly meeting. You meet a lot of good people there.
When you look at the wait times throughout the rest of the park. The Octagon, which was a walk-on with both no fast pass and
I don't know.
fast pass system.
It sounds like you're good, but I'm not sure I fit in.
No pressure. Just letting you know the door is open.
I don't know. Hexagon, which was a walk-on with no fast pass, now has an hour.
Maybe no school schedule một thầy một講này nó bây giờ thì một thầy nữa. Nó đâu có lớn này trường học
hay dạo school.
Nó nhỏ nhiều lúc mà nó hai school vào một.
What?
This pattern can be seen throughout the park when FastPass Plus is added. It is safe to say that overall, both FastPass and especially FastPass Plus increases standby wait times throughout the park. The average standby wait with no FastPass was 41 minutes. With FastPass Plus, it is now 67 minutes.
But
if
don't let it
FastPass
go
was
to your head.
completely removed from the
Still
Walt
plenty
Disney
of time
World
for
parks,
Ego to get the
wait
best
times
to
would
you.
almost
Yes,
certainly
sir.
decrease. But this is not the whole story, because many guests are not waiting in the
You have
standby line.
this whole
They're
fancy bag
skipping
just
them.
for ice fishing?
Let's now
don't mix
examine
and
the
match.
average overall wait. This takes into account both the guests waiting in standby and the guests waiting between 5 and 15 minutes in the FastPass line. For our purposes, we're not considering the time in between guests obtaining the FastPass and redeeming it as part of the wait. On the original FastPass system, guests are technically waiting during this period. Their ability to multitask can throw off these calculations, resulting in some guests being able to wait more hours than there are in a day. And it would make FastPass look like it increased wait tremendously,
I
which is
only
not
see
fair to
2
the
fish in
system.
my cooler.
Also, with FastPass Plus, how would you even do this? Did this guy wait 60 days to ride 7 Dwarfs? I guess, technically, but that might throw things off a bit.
So,
anyways,
about
the
last
average
night.
posted wait in Shapeland
I don't know
with
what
no
Allison
FastPass
said,
is
but
41 minutes.
from my
so
side,
if the guest did every
well,
attraction in the
I thought
park
we were
in
on
a
the same
single day,
page.
their average wait per
But it turns
ride
out
would be 41 minutes.
we weren't.
However, few
Hey,
guests actually do this,
so don't tell
and
her I
most
told you,
gravitate toward the
but
popular attractions.
last week
so
your sister
Shapeland
was
guests actually find
almost
themselves waiting,
unbearable.
on average,
She was
58
jumping
minutes per
up and down
attraction.
with
With the
excitement
original
at you coming
paper
back.
FastPass, the average
Really?
posted standby
You
wait
better
was
believe
48
it.
minutes. But the
Look,
overall
the last time you
average
saw
wait,
each other,
with
you were
factoring in
kids.
both guest
Just
standby
because
line
things have
decisions
changed
and those
doesn't mean you
skipping the
can't
line
work it out.
entirely with FastPass was only 40 minutes. 18 minutes less than without FastPass. But how is this
What if we
possible?
can't?
As we've discussed,
She doesn't
service
understand
rate
why
or
all this is
capacity
important
is
to me.
determined mainly by
Maybe
design
we're
and
just too
operation.
different.
It is nearly
We were
impossible to
finally
increase
about to
the
get some
attraction
answers,
space
and she
of
fucking
capacity
ran
hours
off.
than traffic.
Can you
You
blame
can't
her?
safely put more ride cars on
Avoiding the
Space
problem
Mountain
doesn't
or
make
make
it
it
go
go
away.
faster. It
She's
wasn't
so
designed for
fixated
that.
on
So
selling
when
the
we add
house.
paper fast
It's
pass
like she's trying to bury the
Shapeland's
cat.
top rides, such as the Triangle and the Square, see little to no increase in the number of riders.
I'm not
because
picking
they are
sides
already
here.
serving the maximum
Okay,
number
but
of
she's
guests.
been Murder
However,
House Girl
other rides in
ever
Shapeland
since it
are not
happened.
operating at
Now she's
maximum
got a chance
capacity.
to put it
The
behind
reason
her.
for the increase in the
Start
average amount of
fresh.
rides ridden goes back to
Shit,
what Bruce
I'd
LaValle
be
claimed
pretty
about
eager too.
FastPass backfilling less attended attractions. And it brings up a new concept within queuing.
Yeah,
we know
well,
about
I
how
was the kid who
capacity
killed
and arrival
Simone,
rate can
and I
affect
still
a wait
found a way
time
to
in
confront
different
my
ways.
shit.
But what we have
I
not
mean,
discussed is the
I'm
concept
here,
of a negative
doing
wait
the work.
time. Now, a wait time
Even
cannot
though
be negative
every
in the sense
second
that you can get
I've got to
time
fight
back.
the urge
For
to
instance,
run
I can
straight
never
back.
give you back the time you
Firewood, you
wasted
mean?
watching this video.
Yeah.
What I mean by a
When I
negative wait
first got
time is
there,
that when an
all I
attraction
could
is not
think about
filling
was
its
getting out.
capacity, it is
Felt
losing
like a
capacity.
cage.
Look at it this
But
way.
after a
Let's say a
while,
ride has a
it started to
capacity
feel
of
more like a
1,000
shell.
guests per hour.
I
but only
figured out who I
500 people
was
per
in
hour
it.
ride it.
But
It could be
now I've
considered
got to
that this
work out how to
attraction
be
has a
that
wait
person
time
up
of
here.
negative 30
Well,
minutes.
if it
meaning
makes you
that
feel
30
any better,
minutes
none of
worth
us really
people,
know what we're
in this
doing.
case 500,
Like,
should
shit
show
may
up
look
throughout
bleak
the
now,
hour,
but your
and the
sister
attraction's
never
wait
gonna
would
give
still
up
be
on you.
0 minutes.
And you can lean on me
Because
too
these
if you
additional
want.
guests are merely
Just be
filling
careful,
empty
okay?
seats on the ride.
Got a
You might
bad left
recall
shoulder.
that this was one of the problems with the original
I'll keep it in
reservation
mind.
system pitch from the
Thanks for
mid-90s.
listening.
If a guest
Don't
missed their
mention it.
reservation, they left an empty seat, and thus the attraction lost capacity. FastPass not only avoids this problem, but it actually helps other attractions at the park. Without FastPass, 1,900 guests rode the Octagon. With paper FastPass,
So you gonna tell me
4,800
what's in the
guests rode
cooler,
Octagon,
or what?
An
I could
increase
tell
of
you.
over 150%.
Or I could watch you
But
squirm
the
a
average
bit longer.
posted wait time never breaks
You're
zero
a terrible
because
person.
these people
You know
are
that?
filling empty seats
You betcha.
and increasing the capacity of the
Don't
ride.
you say
This
anything.
explains why
Got
with
this.
FastPass, despite most attractions standby waits rising, guests on average waited less because unlike with no FastPass, guests were actively being pushed to attractions with zero waits, which dropped the average overall wait per attraction. However, with FastPass Plus, this zero wait threshold is broken in most cases, as with the Octagon, which previously went from a walk-on to an average of a 15-minute wait. The average standby wait in Shapeland with FastPass Plus is 67 minutes, but the overall average wait per attraction was 42 minutes.
I got nothing. That was
Because while more
clean.
people are skipping the line more often than with
I'm
the
a
original
little
FastPass, the rise in standby waits throughout the park are so
Can I
significant
ask you
that there
something
is
kinda
no
weird
change to the overall wait.
maybe
In
hard to
fact,
answer?
the average overall
Weird
wait
and
per
kinda hard to
attraction
answer in my
for
jam.
FastPass
What's
was
up?
2 minutes less than
How'd you
FastPass
know
Plus.
you were
FastPass
ready?
does reduce average overall wait times by encouraging guests
Trust
to go to
anyone
underutilized attractions, so long as those
Put
exist.
yourself out there?
Finally, let's look
Okay.
at the average number of attractions ridden.
Yeah,
And if you've been paying attention,
that is
you
a
should
hard
already know
question.
the answer to this one. In the park
Told
with no
you.
FastPass,
There's
guests ride an
not
average of 3
really two ways about it.
But really, the distribution
You gotta be
looks
willing
like
to
this.
take a hit.
22% of
Look,
guests ride 2
I
rides.
stopped listening to the
21%
entire
ride 3,
indie folk genre just
60%
because I
ride
was
4,
dumped at a
and the
show.
percentage declines from
But I
there.
put myself
You
back
can also
out
see
there
that
just
around
like everyone
13%
who's
of
ever
guests
gotten
only
their
ride
heart
1
stomped
ride,
on.
and 3%
Because when you
ride
meet
none.
someone who
These are mostly
really
people that
sees you,
favor
you don't have to
activities and
pretend
have a
anymore.
limited amount of time in the park. When the original FastPass system is added, the amount of attractions ridden
Yeah,
increases,
it all
going from
sounds nice,
3.31 to
but it's just not me.
3.77. With
true lone
FastPass
wolf.
Plus, we again see an
can
increase,
respect
jumping
that.
to an average of
Hey,
4.23
you've been dangling that line
rides
an
per
awful
guest
long
per
time.
day. On average,
Sure you didn't forget the
almost
bait.
every single guest gets to
Here.
ride one additional
Watch him
ride
master.
with the new system. This
Take
is
it away.
significant and proves FastPass Plus's merit as a tool for guest distribution, but it's not the full story. This is the distribution graph that we viewed earlier for when Shapeland has no FastPass implemented. This is what it looks like with FastPass Plus when the average amount of attractions ridden increases from 3.31 to 4.23, assuming that the distribution is even and the system is fair to
Sorry.
all guests. However, that is not FastPass Plus. This is the actual distribution graph
So,
for Shapeland
what is it?
FastPass Plus.
It was just at
As
Sam.
you can see, more people experience less attractions, and more people experience a lot more attractions, while less people are able to do what could be considered a reasonable amount of attractions. In this case, 3 to 7 in a single day. With FastPass Plus, more guests are able to experience 8, 9, 10, 11, and someone found out how to do 39 rides in a day. These are people that got fast passes for long waits like the Triangle and spent most of their time riding shorter waits like
He's
the
not our
Octagon
father.
over and
How do you
over
know?
again.
I asked him.
Meanwhile, the
Point
amount of
blank.
people riding only 2, 1, or even 0 attractions is up for
I'm
no
not
fast
surprised.
pass, and is far more
Running
than
down the
the
barn
ideal
didn't
fast
really
pass
seem
plus
like a Sam
distribution.
move.
This is because
Yeah,
the waits for
I guess it
rides
was
like
silly to
Triangle,
suspect him in the
Square,
first
and
place.
Circle are so long
He'd never
that
hurt
guests
Mary
just
Ann's
wait
kids.
in it.
There's
They didn't have
something
time
else.
to do anything else. Other guests want to ride
Look
rides,
at this.
but they don't
This
want
was
to wait
taken
for
in
an hour.
1992
So if they
when
enter during
Mary Ann
midday,
first moved
they
to Delos
send you
Crossing.
eat a meal,
See that
get
ladder?
shot, and then leave because
Sam
they
told me
wait
the
for
barn
some
has a
time to
loft.
park. So
He helped her build it.
fast pass and fast pass
Apparently she never told anyone about it.
And it's still there?
As far as he knows, yeah. What do you think? Should we give it a shot?
We've come this far. And a hidden loft? That's got secret shit written all over it.
Let's go.
The system benefits those that use the system and know how to use it well, while those that don't use it or don't know how to use it well are much worse.
Tao biết bảo hiểm tao được tính cho là
So at this point, your
không trong đó là được tính cho là coi
Disney World might have some additional context. Perhaps you even know where I could probably predict
That's not gonna help us get this house sold.
Yeah, I got our deadbeat dad to thank for that.
Standby wait times and thus only experience
It might help.
Now, these two sides might have some opinions on the other. If you didn't use the system to its full effect, you might have been waiting in long standby lines, watching hordes of guests on the fast line cut you just because they researched the tips and tricks and were able to pay for an on-property hotel. Those using FastPass
The handle should be behind this.
believed it was those people's fault for not doing their research and using the system that was available to everyone, despite that system requiring a certain amount of time, energy, technological literacy,
there it is.
English proficiency, and money for on-site hotels. Even if you benefited and loved FastPass, the truth is that it only works so well with these people because it works
It's opening
so
up.
poorly for
The
these
secret
people.
keeper always did store all the best secrets in the clouds.
Yep. Come on, let's find a way to climb up there.
Exists between both camps of guests. In queuing theory, this is called. Within the Disney parks, there has become a class system, just like in the real world, except that this one is silly, mostly inconsequential,
Recognize
and you
this?
aren't forced to
Yeah,
live in it like
it
a nightmare you
moves.
can't wake up from. The class
Some of these
system in the Disney
parks,
parks
maybe
breaks
that
all
branch looks. Why do you think she added that castle?
after the discontinuing of the A3 ticket systems.
Here it is. Okay, so Mad Hunter still has two hands here.
So
As
the
we
Or no.
discussed earlier, the in-part currency is small. Any advantage came from knowledge. Those that read the guidebooks, knew the parks, and planned their trips had a leg up.
Branch, as the princess is running away from the Mad Hunter.
Guests knew to rush for Space
was
Mountain in the morning, go
sent
to
by the
left
Gold
lane when
Lady,
available,
according to the
experience the rides
story.
and longest waits during a parade or fireworks, and so on and so on. In Shapeland, under no fast pass, it takes guests
No
an average of
goblins.
6.5 hours
Yeah.
to the top 6 attractions.
In the original,
Earlier in the day, they would have a jump on
goblins
the
managed to
jet.
save
But for the most
the
part,
princess
there are
from the
no
Mad
lines separating
Hunter.
visitors. This
So
was introduced
we
in
said-
the original paper fast pass, but
Saved
this
Marianne
was
from
a system
something.
that was free, with knowledge still being the dividing
But
factor.
not in this
is how long
version.
it takes on average for a guest to do the top 6 attractions at Shapeland, but this time with paper fast pass. Here we see the different knowledge classes.
Branch is a
emerge. There's
little
split between
different.
Those that know the system in and out,
I
those
don't
that
really
know how to use the system
think
on
that
a
means
basic
anything.
level, and those that did not use the system at all. Those that knew the system best could do the 6 attractions in less than 4 hours. Those that knew the basics of the system could do the 6 attractions in 6 hours. And those that didn't use the system would have to spend 8 hours in order to experience the 6
It's not the same title,
Money
so
was
I guess
reintroduced into
that
the
counts as a
equation
difference.
with FastPass Plus. Guests that stayed on property would get to book 60 days
That's
in
it.
advance as a
Whoa.
perk of their stay.
What's in there?
And if they utilize this perk,
Pictures,
they could experience Shapeland's 6
letters.
attractions in less than 4
Has this
hours.
guy been any
Those
more
that understood
cryptic?
the system but had to
Tyler,
book within the
see that
30-day
little
window
light?
as opposed to the
I think we
60-day
need to solve
window
this
would
one
have to
next.
spend 6 hours to do Shapeland's 6 attractions. And those that did not use FastPass Plus at
Seems
all
like
would
it's
have to spend
not
10
doing anything.
hours on average to do
Maybe
these
it's broken.
attractions.
Or
And this
maybe
is
we
not
just need to
accounting
solve the
for
puzzles in
walking,
order.
meals, bathroom
We're not done with the
breaks,
other
or
one
any
yet.
other
Here's the
non-attraction
Gold Lady
activity.
again.
The disparity between these 3 systems and their
All over the
categories of
board.
access is
There was a
staggering, and it showed just how much FastPass Plus favored those that got
You're
premier
referring that
access to the
stash by
system.
the Mad Hunter
But you
painting,
might be
right?
thinking, this
Oh,
doesn't
yeah.
mean anything.
So
Shapeland isn't
maybe
a
all
real
of
park.
this
These
is
are just
related to
fake
what we
numbers
found
you
in
made
there.
up. But that's not
Hey,
actually
I can
true,
move the piece
because
next to the Gold
Shapeland
Lady.
is
All
actually
these
Animal
pictures.
Kingdom.
They look like images from Marianne's life before Delos.
The triangle flight of
Is the
passage,
gold the princess
squares
dancing,
expedition
playing
ever,
violin,
circle is not
spinning
the river
wool?
journey, and so on.
I guess
More
this
than
is
that,
stuff.
the entire simulation is based
Is
off
the
a
Gold Lady
specific
setting
day
the
in Animal
animals
Kingdom.
free?
Judging from the
March
broomstick,
23rd,
I'd say she's getting rid of
a day
them,
with medium
not
high
setting them
crowd.
free.
We
The wise
adjusted
princess
dynamic
looks like
factors
she's
of the
trying to run
system
away.
replicate
And
this
she's
day as closely as
What's the
possible,
Gold Lady
and then
doing?
simply turned on
Whispering
FastPass
something into
and
someone's
examined the
ear.
Nope.
differences. So all of these results, including this graph, is based off of Animal Kingdom, with the top 6 attractions being Flight of Passage, Kilimanjaro Safaris, Expedition Everest, Navi River Journey, Dinosaur, and Cali River Rapids. For good measure, we also simulated Magic Kingdom and observed the same results. And while the park's more diverse set of attractions helped to mitigate the effects of the system in some areas, all of the basic patterns we observed were the same as with Animal Kingdom. So this disparity is real and has created rigid categories of preference among park guests. While the system does not treat everyone the same, it should be noted that not all of Walt Disney World's guests are the same. For instance, you have families that save up for a once-in-a-lifetime trip to the resort. You have regular vacationers that come every year or two. And then you have annual pass holders that might
What's
go
in there
multiple
this time?
times a month. Many argue, with good reason, that a system that gives preference to these once-in-a-lifetime vacationers is necessary.
What's
And a
this?
system with a distribution like this might seem like the solution, while a distribution graph like this might seem like it's treating everyone almost too equally. However, this conclusion ignores many factors we've learned about queuing, such as capacity.
That's the
and
Gold
demand.
Lady's castle.
Let's use
What's
an
that
analogy.
plant
There's a
thing on?
company
Some sort
that
of
makes
clock?
shoes, and you have
This
two
is the
potential
princess's
customers.
house. This
Customer
looks like a
one
dinner
really
party
wants the
with the
shoes.
old bear and the
Customer
very
two
old
does not
beaver.
feel strongly about the shoes.
Yes.
If the shoe company offered the shoes for
What's in there?
$30,
Another
customer
letter?
one would buy them because they really
Why are
want
these
the
pictures
shoes.
from the Book
It's
of Goblins
$30
here?
is a great
I
deal
don't
for a
know.
pair of shoes. Customer two would buy them as well. However, if the shoes cost $100, customer one would still buy them because they really want the shoes. But since customer two doesn't feel strongly about them, they would pass on
Princess
the
is
offer.
lost.
Now,
Is this from the Book of Goblins?
customer two the
Not
shoes
that I
for
know of.
$30,
Well,
while offering
sure looks like it
customer one
could
the
be.
shoes for $200. Customer two would take their
And that
offer,
was how the
despite not
princess
caring for
lost
the
her
shoes,
mom.
and customer one would also take their offer because they really want the
Okay,
shoes.
so
Rather than simply
how do we
using
open
supply and
it?
demand to find a fixed price and maximize profits, many companies will find ways to maximize profits via price discrimination, especially when there is an excess of
Alright,
supply.
should be
But as it
easy
applies
enough.
to queuing, we're not trying to maximize wait times, we're trying to minimize them. While it sounds like a good idea to give preference to once-in-a-lifetime vacationers, while those that visit frequently are favored less,
Alright,
it is extremely
should be
difficult,
easy
if
enough.
not impossible,
Why don't we
to
just break this
enforce
open?
this.
There's a
And with the way
crowbar right
FastPass
downstairs.
Plus was set
What?
up,
No.
it ought to produce
You don't want to
the
try and
exact
figure out what all
opposite
this means?
Instead of
I'm so
priority
done with
access
her
going to
riddles.
once-in-a-lifetime vacationers, with secondary access going to those making semi-regular trips, and with remaining or no access given to those making regular visits, the actual categories often looked like this, with semi-regular visitors that understood the system booked
There you
60
are,
days in
trusty
advance,
crowbar.
regular visitors and annual pass holders without reservations booking within the 30-day window, and once-in-a-lifetime vacationers often finding themselves out of luck, not realizing that they needed a bachelor's degree from My Magic Plus University with a major in FastPass Plus. So dynamic system, great in theory, not so much in practice. And while this distribution might not look good at first glance, it often produces better results, because while there is no...
I think I'm just gonna break this open.
I mean, really? This is all pretty elaborate. I think she was trying to tell us something.
In a little over 6 hours, while the annual pass
Whatever she wants us to know, it's clearly in here. I'm done with the rest of it.
6 rides in a single day because they go so often. The guests that come once a month will probably not ride Kilimanjaro safaris if it has a 90-minute wait, but they would if it had a 15-minute wait. And because they come so often, they know the system, which means they can get...
Did it just get darker in here?
Comes once every 3 years is to
Yeah.
to ride Kilimanjaro safaris, no matter the wait. But because they come so infrequently, they don't know the system, so they have
Okay.
which they do because they don't
Ollie,
visit that often.
why does she have a photo of that tree locked in?
Maybe.
Visitor with an annual pass, the cost of their visit is abstract, as they paid a
Why
fixed
didn't she
annual
tell us
price
about
and
it?
likely already got their
Why
money's
didn't she
worth.
tell us?
While this family knows exactly how much it costs for them and their children to be inside of the park that day.
You really
increasing
wanna
the
go?
pressure to get their money's
You
worth,
sure we've
thus
seen everything?
increasing the amount of time they are willing to wait. And because the capacity of rides
Either
are
way,
determined by design
I'm
and
ready for this to be
operation,
over.
the supply
Me
is
too.
finite. So this exact scenario
Come
plays
on.
out over and over again to the
Đi
point
là
where
dùm tay
someone
vô
might
hội,
just wonder,
ok?
hey,
Để
we
mà
have a
bà
limited amount of shoes to sell.
Mày muốn
Stop
hỏi
giving
đồ
them to
cha.
people that
Cậu
don't
mới
want
chỉ
them
ngủ
for
xài chắc bẻ bà.
$30.
Mày xin cây lắc
Instead,
cha.
just get rid of the system and let people self-select. Some rides will have long waits, some rides will have short waits, but at least everyone will be making a personal decision based on the context of their visit, and not how good they are at playing the My Disney Experience app as if it were a slot machine. I know that some might disagree with this conclusion. There you are. And I understand there's a level of subjectivity to this. Your experiences are not incorrect. FastPass Plus allowed guests that were not frequent visitors to have incredible vacations. But based on the evidence both in the simulation and in real life, the truth is that, in practice, FastPass Plus was not a more fair system than no system, and it often was the opposite. Perhaps the best compromise between FastPass
What are we
Plus
waiting
and a
for?
no
I want to
FastPass
know
card
who was here that night.
unsurprisingly, the original paper FastPass system.
Let's try and remember who Marianne was arguing
This
with.
retains the guest distribution benefits of the system, while also maintaining the natural self-selection process that guests go through when making decisions. Most importantly, while knowledge remains a dividing factor among guests, the original FastPass system reset every single day. With FastPass Plus, when guests arrived at the resort, it was too late to educate them on the system. FastPasses for the most popular rides had already been gone for months. With Paper FastPass, guests might find themselves unaware of the system on day one of their vacation.
You knew
but
how
they
bad it
quickly
got out
learn
here.
And be utilizing it by day 2. This is why Disneyland's MaxPass system was more favorable to many guests. It was essentially the original FastPass.
You were here that night.
Except for
You
digital
saw
rather
Marianne.
than physical. The only caveat being that it costs money to utilize, which was its most divisive
You tried to
aspect.
burn down our barn and knocked
Paper FastPass was an idea that was birthed from within operations, while FastPass Plus, by all indications, was a system birthed from marketing. Its intention was not to make operations more smooth within the park.
Does he really
Its purpose
expect
was
us to
be a
believe
key
there was
part
an-
of a larger guest experience initiative. So it should not be shocking to suggest, based on all of the evidence that we have viewed, that guests and operations would fare better without FastPass Plus. But what am
So
I
what
talking
do we
about?
do
They
now?
spent $1 million on this. They're not getting rid of anything. So,
You failed us, Tom. You... That was convenient for you, huh?
Your mother was...
so what started as a cute little idea has turned into a $1 billion model.
Same time.
Actively eating guests at the park.
4:30.
What do you do? You could kill the monster, but you don't
Let me know.
because you spent $1 billion making it, and some guests have befriended the monster and have really come to like it, so that would be sad for them. Okay, so we're not killing it. What if the monster was
Stop
friends with
it.
everybody? Can't do that. As long as the monster is still alive, it has to eat a certain amount of people. What if the monster had more friends than it does now? In order for the monster to be able to have more friends, i.e. FastPass users, there would need to be more ride capacity. This could be done by adding new attractions. However, many argue that this will trigger induced demand, which is when increasing the supply of something also increases its demand. The most common example being a delay, and rather than reducing traffic, it actually increases congestion. This is not perfectly comparable to theme parks. The reason traffic increases when you add a lane to a highway is because the increased supply reduces the price, or in this case, congestion, enough for the demand to increase in response. New drivers are not generated simply by the allure or appeal of the lane itself. However, in theme parks, this is the case. New rides, especially good ones, almost always draw in new guests, often offsetting any capacity gained by the addition. Also, building new rides is expensive and takes time, and is by no means a quick fix. What if you
I'm
increase the
going to
capacity
kill
of
you!
the existing ride? As we discussed, ride capacity is finite, and is determined by design and operation. You can't
I'm going to kill you!
What if it wasn't finite?
I'm going to kill you!
Unless you were to just build a second Dumbo right next to the park.
I'm going to kill you!
That's an easy one. You can't do that with most rides. Like, you can't just build another theater for Soarin'. You can actually, and they did. But that was to support the new Soarin' Around the World ride bill. Would they really do that with a ride
Cheers.
just to rightly increase capacity?
Better off without
But
it.
despite all of these
Allie,
strategies to increase capacity and thus slow down the
Yeah,
monster, the
things
monster
haven't
continues to grow
exactly-
for a factor that we have not even discussed yet. Attendance. When Paper FastPass was introduced in 1999, 42.6 million people visited Walt Disney World annually. When XPass was developed in 2008, 47.1 million people visited annually. By the
It's me.
time FastPass Plus rolled out
House is
in
empty,
2013,
and I'm about ready to leave.
51 million people visited
Thought I
annually.
should probably check in before I leave for good.
51.5 million people
Oh,
visited.
okay.
In 2015,
Did Tina help you with the paperwork at all?
Yeah, she's not so bad when she's not in hard sell mode.
Cool.
A
Well,
16%
I guess that's
increase
it
since
then.
when FastPass Plus was introduced. The FastPass system was designed to be dynamic, but the rate at which attendance increased was unpredictable, and FastPass Plus did not operate well under it, so the monster only grew bigger. Some parks fared better than others. For instance, Magic Kingdom has
Okay,
a wide array of
well,
attractions.
I gotta go.
Say hello to the bears for me.
Will do. I'm gonna take one last walk through the house and then head to the ferry. Thanks for letting me take your car.
You need it more than me.
Yeah, well, later.
Yeah,
Compare this to a park like Animal Kingdom that in 2017 added Pandora to the world of Avatar, a heavily promoted and well-received addition to a park that doesn't have that many attractions to offer.
Cho tôi ra like cái like điện, ok, mũ à mình like điện thì phần là thật à. Like này có like điện, tung xa này ở tận mũ á, tay mũ đi mũ tay rồi xăm rồi mũ nè, mới mình điện ra đi tay cái mũ rồi, chứ là cho xăm dậu về cũng to đi xăm, tôi khoan này phải chổi chút tiền nó đồ sảy ra, mà có phui ở chia sảy rồi phui lên, tao nói đó.
When the wait time of a ride has little to no effect on the amount of people that want to ride it.
Đâu ta mình cảnh như là cái thổi vậy chứ mà lên mình tròn hay là kẹp mà mổ chi đó.
As a result, wait times increase to 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours.
Xíu xong nó họ có gì muốn bị tịt là hổ bị khó sẵn nha. Đây chưa có phu cái tí tặng tỏi tiền quả họ bao mà
I'm about ready to leave. Thought I should probably check in before I leave for good.
Oh, okay. Did Tina help you with the paperwork at all?
Yeah, she's not so bad when she's not in hard sell mode.
Cool. Well, I guess that's it then.
While the resorts argued that they needed more fast passes at the 60-day mark so that hotel guests could receive their perks. In 2018, club-level guests at select resorts were
Say hello
allowed
to the bears
access
for
to
me.
a new tier of Fast Pass Plus,
I'm gonna take
allowing
one
them to
last
book
walk through
6
the house
fast
and
passes
then
in
head
advance.
this way. Thanks for letting me take your car.
You need it more than me.
Yeah.
Upcharge of $50 per person per day.
Yeah.
The more fast passes that were handed out, the more the monster grew and grew and grew. Then, in the summer of 2019, Universal Orlando debuted a new ride at their Islands of Adventure theme park. The Wizarding World
cái dạo nói một là bà fan này á, tròn thì hơi chẳng có tiếng Úc có đồ đó chỉnh cảnh vậy đó. Mới là rõ có đi xì tại vì cho sai rồi, cái xuất tiền ở đồ cả, có đi thầy xì tại cả, có đi tại sẵn cái che, tại cũng sẵn cái che, nên ra bà ở trên tầng mình sợ có đồ không xài. Có mà đi ủng sai có che có đi ấy tì xì đó, có mũ sai là tì hả mày? Có mới là hàng hơi có tiếng phỏng lỗ đi tì chim chứ dẫu vậy là con lỗ tì chim để bà chay đi tài chơi để bà chay hay chơi đồ chứ đó có còn tình đó chứ đâu gì mụ hôi mụ đâu đó dẫu đi chọn cái fan cung rồi đó là tài nó
Coincidentally, Disney was about to debut another ride for Galaxy's Edge, Star Wars Rise of the Resistance, the land's signature attraction, which, like Hagrid's, did not work consistently, and the ride was primed for the Fast Pass monster to swallow guests, resulting in huge wait times. Under pressure to open the ride anyways, Disney took extreme measures to ensure that wait times remained under control, in order to keep guests comfortable and satisfied, and not at all because the chairman of the parks publicly deemed a 10-hour line a failure in the press months earlier. When Rise of the Resistance opened at Walt Disney World in December of 2019, he utilized a new virtual queue system that completely eliminated the standby line in favor of assigning guest boarding groups that would be called throughout the day. The idea reportedly came from, of all places, the DMV, that had implemented a customer service system in which guests calling the helpline were given a call back rather than being put on hold. So that's where we are, everybody. The virtual queue nearly eliminated lines for Rise of the Resistance, but it left many guests frustrated when boarding groups ran out almost immediately in the morning, with the app informing guests that the ride was booked for the rest of the day before the sun had even come up. But hey, there were no 10-hour lines, so it did its job. Speaking of new systems, also in 2019, at the D23 Expo in Anaheim, Bob Chapek announced, whatever this is.
It's called Disney Genie. It will put customized itineraries geared towards your interest at your fingertips, cutting down on the need to plan and research.
So with the old system raging on, a new one just beginning, and a future one in development, the beast was growing faster than ever. Every attempt to fix the problem was at best a stall, but most often, the attempts only made the monster's damage worse. The amount of guests that the system benefited declined, while those that did benefit were more loyal to it than ever, because it was more necessary than ever to have a good time at the parks. The more fast passes that were added to the system, the more the monster grew. The more people that came to the parks, the more the monster grew. The monster grew and grew until Walt Disney World had finally succumbed to the beast.